Press hockey coverage with Jim Biringer.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is the Full Press NHL Podcast. Please subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment below. I'm your host, Jim Biringer, alongside Rob Simpson, Vancouver Hockey Insider. I was happy and pleasure to join his program on the Seattle Kraken, which we will touch on another day. But it's good to have Mr. Simpson back on the program to talk about the Vancouver Canucks. Simmer, what's going on, man?
Oh, my God. We're getting close. I think I saw a little tweet from the Canucks today that said 44 days until the home opener. So there you go.
44 wow. Days. 44 days. It's counting down. And last season, it was a bit of a disappointment for the Vancouver Canucks. A lot of drama, a lot of turmoil. We've talked about Elias, Pettersson, JT Miller, the trade, everything that went down, the locker room stuff, the drama. It just felt like, and then Rick Tocchet leaves, new coach, and we'll get to a lot of that. But it feels like hopefully everything, all the drama has died down in Vancouver a little bit.
Gee, I would hope so. First of all, Petey, when he was in Sweden this summer, gave an interview that, it's kind of switching from the exchange from Swedish to English. He said he wanted to get revenge for last season. I think it was just for lack of a better term. And I think obviously what he meant there is he wants to make up for what was a poor season, and he's all fired up to get things started. So the JT Miller stuff is obviously well behind him, and he's rip-roaring and ready to go. So that's number one. Whether that comes to fruition, of course, remains to be seen, and of course a huge factor in how this team does, because they're not very strong up the middle. Filipino, who came back the other way in the JT Miller trade, is kind of been injury prone over the years, some odd ones in there, and a bit inconsistent. And then you got a young guy in Ratu below him, and of course, maybe Teddy Biringer. We'll see if anything changes during training camp. But they're not that strong up the middle. Pretty good on the wings, pretty good on the D. And then the other thing you mentioned, Jim, was the Demko drama. It's been off and on for 2 years, these little weird knee injuries, a groin at one point. Apparently he's ready to go. So if it's Demko and Lankinen from the start and he stays healthy, hell yes, that is a huge part of this hockey club if he can stay healthy. And because he was elite. Like, he's not right now, as we speak, the U.S. Olympic team's having their orientation camp in Plymouth, Michigan. Demko's not there. That was a lock 2-3 years ago. He was going to be the guys. It was going to be him, Hellebuck, and Ottinger for Team USA. So with him out, the fourth guy that was invited in was Joey Decord down the road in Seattle. So if Demko's healthy, man, it changes the whole thing.
We talked about it last year doing the Vancouver Canucks preview heading into the season, and you said one of the big burning questions was Demko's health. Yeah. And I believe, to me, outside the center position, and I'll ask you about that too, but to me that feels like it's the big burning question for the Vancouver Canucks again this year.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to think that, they are prepared to go with these two very fine goaltenders. I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to Kevin Lankinen for stepping in as he has done and carrying the team, basically. He put up great numbers and got a contract out of it. So good for him. That's, of course, goaltending is so fickle. That's no guarantee moving forward. So I think Demko's health is a huge factor. And yes, as you just point out, sounds rosy. Sounds wonderful, but there are no guarantees. I mean, he could tweak whatever part of his body he tweaks. I hope not. He's a good dude and a great goaltender, and hopefully it works out for him. Artur Silovs, by the way, who is kind of hovering around the organization, won the Calder Cup for Abbotsford as the starting netminder and actually absolutely dominated. He moves along. So he went to Pittsburgh. It was kind of either, what are we doing with this guy? And he's like, he's gone. So they're in great shape. Demko and Lankinen are healthy. Hey, that's playoff goaltending.
And then, Demko gets that extension this summer too, right? And that was kind of a bit of a head scratcher for me because of the no movement clause, considering the injuries. And the money, fine, that's probably the range. But the fact that he got trade and movement protection and his injuries and no CVOS there, it's like, okay, this guy better be ready to go, because $13 million in goaltending and one guy gets hurt, that's not a recipe for success.
$8.5 million for 3 more seasons after this one that's coming up, where he's still being paid $5 million. That means they're extremely confident in the status of his lower body. That's all you can really say. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. You mentioned the center position and the depth at center down behind Elias Pettersson. Obviously, there was a lot of trade rumors surrounding Petey last year and maybe into the offseason, and it feels maybe they couldn't do anything because, oh, yeah, well, if we try to trade Petey, we're going to have to try to find 2 centers, and that doesn't work. Are they still trying to find a center behind him, or do they hope Filipinos over his injury history too?
Well, I considered the PD trade talk asinine. It was, the local media's chance to whine about it and say, what if we trade him and he plays really good? Not going to happen. Who is going to trade for a guy that was at his lowest rung, who's getting paid $11.5 million with a new contract with the Canucks? I mean, just think of all the scenarios where they have traded him and held money back so they get. I mean, it was ridiculous. So,
and you weren't winning that trade.
No,
you weren't going to win it. You weren't going to win it because you didn't win the Miller trade. It was clear, but that wasn't a win.
No, it was just ridiculous. So yeah, you trade JT Miller and then you trade Elias Pettersson on the heels of that. Like, who comes up with this shit?
A lot of people do. Well, it would have been a Corey Schneider and Roberto Luongo situation all over again, because they traded Schneider, and then a year and a half later, or less than that, they traded Luongo away. And it's like, okay, well, you should have kept one of the guys at least.
Well, we saw the same thing here in Vancouver. I want to say, was it 2 years ago? Miller was having the best season of his career, was leading the team in scoring, had another full year of his contract left, and everybody was insisting they were going to trade him at the trade deadline. I was like, this makes no sense. And there was like 6 other reasons why they weren't going to trade JT Miller at that point, a couple of seasons ago. Everything was honky-dory, and it's just something to talk about. So anyway, we'll move on from that. But the bottom line is, you mentioned the Kraken, by the way, the other day. Look at all the teams that are competing for center depth, if not 1-2 centers. Seattle's actually gotten deep in the middle, but they still don't have the star at the top. But I think what they're kind of looking at, seeing where Berkeley Catton ends up. He was drafted not this summer, the one before. He might make the club play in the wing, or he'll have to go back to juniors based on the current CBA. They got Shane Wright in there, got Chandler Stevenson there, Matty Beniers in there. None of them are star top centers, but they're piling up the depth in there. And then they added Freddie Gaudreau, who wins a lot of faceoffs and is kind of a shootout specialist, which is something they need help with. And of course, Jared McCann can always play the middle. He was the subject of a lot of rumors, and we shut that down when the team told a couple other clubs, your Devils, that they weren't trading him. Terrible face-off guy, but otherwise was pretty good in the middle a couple seasons ago, particularly during Dave Hackstall's last season. So they actually have kind of a depth approach to that 2-3 and de facto 1, where I think the Canucks, it's a little more straightforward. It's Petey at the top, and then it's like, okay, Hedl, see what you can do, and then the bottom 6 is the bottom 6.
And then, again, we talked about it. You mentioned it before about JT Miller, right? And you said, oh, well, he's going to be traded. He's moving on. It felt like that way from the start. You were saying because we talked about Brock Boeser last year, heading into the deadline, all season, the contract. Would he get one? Was he going to get traded? Probably the best scenario was that they used him as an old rental, which they did. They tried to get to the playoffs. And then everybody's like, oh, he's going to go. July 1st comes and he's gone. Like, it just feels like he's gone. There's no respect for him. And then he signs that deal. And it's like, okay, I guess, Vancouver's basically saying to everybody, don't assume everything anymore. What does that mean for the Canucks to have Brock Boeser back?
Well, he's got to keep it going. I mean, he's got to keep performing the way he's been performing in the last couple of seasons. I mean, the guy topped out at a 40-goal season. I mean, I remember being at training camp in 21-22 in Whistler, BC, up in the mountains there. It was all, are you ever going to get to 30? Are you ever going to get to 30? Because that was the big thing. And then boom, 2 years later, he gets to 40. He's in his prime. I mean, he's in his late 20s. So I thought he was gone. I think everybody thought he was gone. This was a last second thing. And it has something to do with performance from the team side of things, but it's personality wise from Brock Boeser. He's a nice guy, super nice guy. I think he's kind of a sentimental guy. He didn't want to rock his own personal boat by just going to another franchise and having to find a new place to live and learn all new teammates. He's just very comfortable where he's at, and he's happy in his place, and he didn't want to rock that boat. He's got close friends on the team and all that. I mean, a lot of guys have that, but for business purposes, they're like, yeah, I'm out of here. But he got a pretty generous contract, 7+, and why not stay for those numbers? And, if you're content, go for it. So he just needs to continue producing, and we'll see. That's just a kind of a wait and see situation. I don't know. He's not getting any faster. He's not getting any more dynamic or mobile. He just finds the places on the ice to score, to shoot, and create some offense. And that's what he's going to have to continue to do.
Do you think that'll benefit a guy like Pettersson, to have Boeser on the wing for him? Maybe those two guys can develop some chemistry.
Sure. Of course. They'll probably have him and DeBrusque on either side of Petey, and then the little engine that could, Connor Garland. Speaking of that U.S. Olympic camp, pretty nice little honor that he and Quinn Hughes go to that thing. Obviously, Hughes is a lock. In fact, he's already been named to the Team USA, one of 6 guys. But Garland, who helped win the World Championship in the spring, got the nod. I love watching him. I've loved him since he showed up because he eats, sleeps, breathes hockey. So that's kind of cool. And then protect him. I like the Evander Kane signing.
Yes.
On the other side. Because this team needed somebody to stand up for each other. They needed a little team identity that way in terms of the toughness and physicality, especially with angry, ornery JT Miller gone. So, I mean, just people take liberties. Even Miller, when they ran into the Canucks after that deal, I mean, he rubbed out Quinn Hughes along the boards after a whistle. It was pretty decent hit. Nobody did a thing because nobody's going to attack JT Miller because he was JT Miller and recently their teammate. But it was weird to watch. What you need, if that was 10 years ago, 20 years ago for sure.
Yeah.
There's a brawl.
Easy brawl.
Ew. JT, we're not, whatever. It was weird. But that's kind of where we're at with the game. I like the top 6. I like the balance they have in the top 6. I'm not unhappy with the way the Canucks look. And by the way, Niels Höglander, who I was constructively critical of over his early years for just having hot potato hands, like anytime he got near the net, it was like he couldn't even come close to finishing. He'd shoot it 8 feet wide or just lose the puck. He started to finally settle down last year in the last season and a half. So it'll be very interesting to see if that trend continues for him, lower in the lineup. Other than that, nothing down there is blowing me away. Kiefer Sherwood, a man among boys last season. So he brings that grit. So I like it. Him, Kane, Myers can be a goon at times on the defensive side of things. So, and I don't mean that in 1970s, 80s terminology. I just mean it in terms of he's a big man who can get a little nasty at times. Hopefully they answer the bell in the physicality department. And by the way, like Tocchet, Adam Foote was nasty as a player. He was an ass. And maybe that will rub off.
So a couple of things real quick. Obviously, the big one, since you cover the team, and there's been a lot of talk about this since Jim Rutherford opened his mouth about the Hughes brothers wanting to play together. Yeah. That comment, and of course,
you could trade for it.
Maybe you could trade for the. I don't think
so. Maybe we could get those guys to come here.
Oops. Yeah. Obviously, in New Jersey, everybody's like, "Oh, Quinn Hughes, he's going to come here next summer." From what I gather and what I see, maybe you can tell me differently. It doesn't even feel like Quinn Hughes has told the team what he wants to do. He just wants to play for the Canucks, and that's it until he decides next season what he wants to do.
Yeah. I mean, what's the rush?
Yeah.
You got a whole season to see. You got to see what the hell is going on with this hockey club over this next whole season before you even have to think about making that decision. And his agent, Pat Brisson, he's not going to give anything away. He's like, I'm not doing a damn thing. I've got $1 billion in contracts with JP Barry for a reason, and we're going to sit and wait and see. You got to remember, Petey and Quinn Hughes both held out in 21. So they're not afraid. This is business for them, and the love between those brothers. That is a strong factor here. I mean, Quinn Hughes could definitely head east once he sees what's going on with the Canucks here over this next season. And then you got a season of like hand-wringing in Vancouver, but tough beans. It's up to him, not to the fans or the media. So that's a ways off. They can talk about it and be nervous about it and be scared about it and talk about the implications once a week if they want to, but it's not going to make any difference until next summer.
And it's so hard to replace a guy like that too. Number one defenseman on that side, like
he's trophy.
Exactly.
Like always in the conversation,
and always ranked second behind Cale Makar too. That's just so hard to replace. And like you said, there's still a ways away because he's not eligible to sign an extension until next July 1 anyway.
Right. Yeah. There's no point. I wonder a little bit about, and I don't know if this factored into JT, pure speculation on my part, doesn't strike me as a captain type. I mean, I know he's stepped up and learned to speak to the media on a regular basis and, been a little more thorough, I guess is the word in terms of answering certain questions and things. But I personality-wise, from watching him in family situations on video and presentations they've made in the past, it just seems a little, I don't know. Lead by example is always the safe way to go. And in his case, nobody else on the team can do what he does.
No.
But that's not leading by example, like by kicking ass and being tough and, all the elements that go into it. It's not the Mark Messier style or Steve Eisman style of leading by example. I don't know. That is curious to me in terms of how that works in the room. Somebody else can answer that question for me.
And it feels like the hire of Adam Foote. I know. And this is just me, again, speculating on my part. But again, I kind of saw reports about this and people writing stuff that potentially a reason why Adam Foote was hired is to keep Quinn Hughes happy and see maybe they can bond something and hopefully that can lead to success down the road.
Yeah. And again, given his personality and his toughness factor and all that good stuff, he conveys kind of an old time approach. It's kind of like Craig Berube in Toronto and of course, Rick Tocchet now in Philadelphia. They can't coach now the modern player the way they were coached, and the game has changed dramatically since then. However, he can still convey kind of that feeling, that attitude of, establishing a team identity and being a little bit tougher and almost protecting Hughes as the coach. And Hughes will have a little bit more protection on the ice as well, just mentioning some of the guys that we brought up earlier. But no experience as a head coach other than the Kelowna Rockets when he was basically a 500 junior coach 5 years ago. So that part is fascinating. But Quinn Hughes did say he loved having Footy around as his D coach, as the assistant. So time will tell.
Time will tell. And do you believe, granted, everybody talks about can the Canucks do it? Again, we've talked about it at the beginning. If this team stays healthy, if Demko stays healthy, Quinn Hughes stays healthy, everything starts to click. Do you think the Canucks can get back to the playoffs this year?
Absolutely can get back to the playoffs. Number one, the goaltending. Like you said, if Demko stays healthy, but then also the D, I think it's a strong suit, to be quite honest. Hronek also had some injury issues. I like them as a top pair. Hronek, the righty, for Quinn Hughes. Marcus Pettersson coming on board, I think, is a big bonus. Tyler Myers has actually calmed down and has used his physical presence more effectively over the last couple of seasons. And then, Derek Forbort's hit and miss, but he'll get third pair minutes with the other PDD, I call him, Elias. I think they're differentiating PD and PDD with changing the pronunciation of the first name. But 3 Petterssons on the team, 2 of them on the blue line. I like the balance back there. I like the fact that kid's getting the experience. He's a physical player, another element there. And I really think it's the strong suit of the hockey club outside, of course, the goaltending if it stays healthy. So
and the oldest
that reason they're a playoff team.
And the oldest player on that D-core is Meyer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they've instilled some youth, and then of course they got some middle-aged guys in there as well.
A couple
with hockey, middle-aged.
Yeah. A couple guys I want to ask you about: Lekaramaki, and then the prospect Willander, who signed, and another Swedish defenseman. Do you think those guys down the road could see time with the Canucks?
Yeah, I don't know how quickly they'll see time. I mean, Willander is in college playing out in Boston, so that's going to continue going the way it's going. And then Lekaramaki has been relatively proficient. I understand he's mostly known for his shot, so there could be room for him. There could be room for Linus Karlsson. I thought he was extremely impressive. Max Sasson is not a regular, but he's a guy who's been hanging around as an extra forward. They have a couple of extra guys that will get a strong look. And I think Karlsson, who had an incredible Calder Cup playoffs for Abbotsford and winning it all, I think those guys could contribute, and they're going to definitely get a look at training camp again, because that bottom 6 is like, yeah, okay, let's open up the competition. Yeah, I think they'll get a look.
Yeah, I mean, this team is always fascinating year to year to me, because like Vancouver, like they had that big season, they lose to Edmonton in 7, and then they come back to earth last year a little bit because of the injuries. But it feels like the way the Pacific is, you mentioned Seattle earlier. We'll talk about them in another episode, but other teams like Anaheim wanting to get better, and Calgary wanting to improve, and San Jose's on the rise. Vancouver can get back into that top 3 picture or get a wild card just because of everything that they have on this team that's there, that those 2 guys have built.
Yeah, if you look at the rest of the Pacific, I mean, Seattle's obviously still a work in progress. I mentioned like you said, we'll get into their issues in an upcoming episode, I reckon. But San Jose's not there. Anaheim's improving, but not there. Calgary's always a threat. Edmonton, obviously. I think Vancouver and Vegas. I think Vancouver's a solid 3-4 in the Pacific Division. Part of that has to do with how well the Calgary Flames play this season. So yeah, they should be, if you ask me, a top 3 team, 3 or 4 in the Pacific this coming season.
It's going to be an interesting watch out there in the Pacific Division. As we said, can't wait to discuss the Seattle Kraken because we discussed them a lot last year as well. Looking forward to having you on again to discuss them. It's been a very fun episode of the Full Press NHL podcast here with Rob Simpson, Vancouver Hockey Insider, breaking it all down. Can't wait to post this up here on the YouTube. Guys, like, subscribe, follow along for more. Rob, thank you so much for coming on.
Jimmy, baby, it's my pleasure as always. And folks can check us out at VancouverHockeyInsider.com. And we also do a pod based there. You've been on the Seattle one recently, SeattleHockeyInsider.com. And I love the fact you got the book back there over your right shoulder. Is that right? Your right shoulder?
Yeah, my right shoulder.
Look at that. No heavy lift. They got it, boy.
That's a great book. It's a great read. Guys, check it out. Again, Full Press NHL podcast. We dissected the Vancouver Canucks. Some little rumors in there as well. A lot of fun as always with Rob Simpson here. Guys, take care and we'll see you real soon.
Full Press Hockey coverage with Jim Biringer.